You're listening to the Craft Messages That Matter podcast. I'm your host, Theo Capodistrius. Grab a coffee, sit back, and enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Craft Messages That Matter podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm your host and friend, Theo Capodistrius. This is a question that's popped up a few times from a communication perspective. How do we balance being blunt compared to that of being honest? Now, I'm a big fan of reality TV. Don't judge me, I know you love it too. And often you will see a loudmouth contestant who will start abusing other people on the show, causing a ruckus, and of course, they'll use the excuse that they're just being so honest and they need to say this. I mean, let's think of Married at First Sight, The Bachelor, some of those classics. And sure, it makes for good ratings, and I am there to watch. And something that, is going to be talked about on national radio the next day. But it'll ruin every relationship that person has on the program, likely. And, it might turn them into the bully. So, we're told that it's really important to be honest. Companies say that honesty is one of their key values and they expect it to be the way of their employees, being there and working there. Honesty is an incredibly important asset. Lying and being deceitful is never the answer here. However, simply blurting out everything that we think or that we want to say isn't the right approach either. So we're going to talk about something that often gets a bit confused, and that is how we consider what is being blunt and then what is being honest. And many people think that being blunt and being honest are the same thing, but in reality they are quite different. While both traits are associated with speaking the truth, they can have a very different effect on those who receive the message. Being blunt typically means without concern for how others might feel about the message. It's like ripping off a band-aid. It might be painful, but it's quick and it gets the job done. Being blunt can come across really harsh, very critical, and probably even rude. On the other hand, being honest means telling the truth in a way that is considerate of the other person's feelings. It's like slowly peeling off the band-aid, allowing the person to adjust to the discomfort in a more manageable way. Being honest can come off a little more respectful, empathetic, and supportive. So why do people confuse being blunt with being honest? Well, for starters, they both involve telling the truth. Additionally, people who are blunt might claim that they are being honest even though their delivery might be overly harsh or insensitive. However, as we know, being honest requires a level of emotional intelligence and empathy that being blunt doesn't. It's important to consider how our words might affect those around us and to deliver our message in a way that is respectful and even supportive. Simon Sinek explains it best where he suggests that telling the truth is important, but it's also important to consider the context in which we're providing it. I saw a video on Instagram recently where all good videos live, of course, where he said that he watched his friend perform in a theatre production. The show was awful. After it finished, he and his friends waited around to speak to his friend who was performing. And she asked, "Well, what did you think?" Now, Simon didn't say, "Wow, that was horrendous." Instead, he said, "Your performance was great," which he believed to be true. Her actual performance in the show was good. So he managed to tell the truth, but didn't want to bluntly tell her that the whole experience was terrible, as you could imagine what that would do to her in that moment where she was feeling really awesome about the whole experience. If he wanted to give her more substantive feedback about the overall performance, it would be something that would happen probably in a few weeks and being bundled in a way that's actually constructive. There is no point in crushing someone. I've been a big believer that we use our communication for good because we can make a huge impact every time we speak. And whether that is with people one-on-one, whether that's in an audience, to an audience, whether that is in a team meeting, we can make a huge impact with our words. So I want you to look back at some of your past conversations and analyze where you may have been a little more harsh than maybe you needed to be. But also, I want you to reflect on those times where you spoke the truth but delivered it in a way that was empowering. Think about that, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Being blunt and being honest might seem similar on the surface, but they have very different effects on those who receive the message. While being blunt can come across as being really harsh and insensitive, being honest requires a level of empathy and consideration that can make all the difference. So let's speak up, show up, and make an impact in all of our communications in a really positive way. And if you like this episode, please follow or subscribe and give it a rating. Give it a 5 out of 5. We love that, particularly as I'm in the early stages of the pod. To learn more about what I do as a speaker, a trainer, an MC, and a public speaking, communications and presentation coach, head to my website, www.theocap.com.au. Follow the Craft Messages That Matter Instagram page at CMTM_podcast. And of course, follow my personal Instagram page at theocap_.